I'm Bob Spinozzi, and welcome to Small Town. We're coming up on a very special, magical time of the year, the fall season. During the next few weeks, many out-of-towners will pass through Littleton and, among other things, stop at our farm stands, pick apples and pumpkins, go on a hayride, and enjoy the foliage with its incredible burst of colors. And for us, there is also Littleton Tigers football. That's right, football is back. We're going to have some fun tonight and preview the Littleton Tigers' upcoming season with athletic director and head football coach Mike Lynn. We're also going to have LCTV's executive director Mark Crory carry the ball and tell us about production changes that you'll see with this year's telecasts of Tigers home games. But before we get to all that, I'd like to switch gears and put the focus on our first guest, Littleton resident Ed McCarthy. Ed owns Precision Vision Optical Store in Acton, but he's also spent many years coaching Littleton sports, and I caught up with Ed earlier. Ed, thanks for coming with us today.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Now, you live in town.
I do.
You own an optical store in Acton, but you've done some coaching in town here. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to coach in Littleton here. Gee, I think I counted 23 teams that I've coached so far. Baseball and softball. I did have a brief stint at basketball. That's not the sport that I generally know best.
So how many years back? How many years does this encompass?
I think it's 12 now.
Okay.
I kind of lost track. I started back with my daughter. Actually, my oldest son, I was kind of like a helper for another coach, John Court. And eventually, they needed a couple people to step up in Littleton softball, so I jumped in, and it's been a lot of fun.
Now, this is in the school system?
No, this was Park and Rec first.
This was
I coached in Park and Rec for probably about 5 years before I started coaching at the high school.
But in high school, what were the sports that you coached?
Just junior varsity softball.
Okay. And then what were some of the other sports that you coached?
Baseball for Park and Rec, and basketball for one season in Park and Rec.
Okay. Now, is there a system in place? I'm not going to ask this maybe the way I want to, but you have X amount of players on a team. Do you have to play every player? Is there some kind of a rule or something attached to that?
At the Park and Rec level, yeah, there's rules where everybody's going to play equal amounts, or you try to. It depends on if you get, mercied or whatever. You try to get each of the kids playing equal amounts, both infield and outfield when they're younger. And then as they get older, you want to try to have to play in the positions that's going to suit them best. And again, you try to keep them equal time. Everybody is in the batting order. At the JV level, you try to, again, give everybody playing time, but at the same time, you're trying to develop a squad for varsity. So the ones who are excelling are going to get a little more playing time.
Are you coaching this year?
I just finished another season. It just wrapped up last week. In fact, it was probably one of the most exciting games I've ever been involved in. There was not much defense going on, however. The final score was 23-22, but it was back and forth the entire game. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. And so this season's wrapped up, and then, I'll probably be back again next season.
Sounds like a Red Sox score from the old days.
It does. Yeah, it does.
Do you play in different sites, or do you have a dedicated stadium? Field, rather.
Well, this year I was coaching Babe Ruth, and we were playing at Whitcomb Field over at Russell Street, and we were playing at the high school, so on the high school field. And then we traveled to a couple of the towns around the immediate area.
Okay.
We traveled to Westford, Groton, Concord, Maynard, as far away as Framingham. It's kind of far for an evening commute trying to get there for a 5:45 game.
Gonna miss it?
Yeah. I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. You don't kind of miss that trying to rush over to Framingham aspect of it, but being on the field with the kids is a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
Well, it's great that you can donate your time. I mean, you have a large business that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, and you still find time to do this.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm doing one of the fun aspects of it. Coaching's the fun part. A lot of people don't realize what goes on behind the scenes and all the volunteers that get the season going. Park and Rec baseball, LYBS, is always in search of more volunteers, and the people who are there, they do a tremendous job. I don't think they get enough credit for how much work they put in to getting a season underway.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about sports and corrective lenses. I
Sure.
imagine a lot of athletes that need corrective lenses, most of them I would guess wear contact lenses.
For the most part, yeah, they do. But you really can't go into the contact lenses until you're about 12, 13 years old. So some of the younger players need to have a safety glass when they're playing, particularly a sport like baseball.
Well, now, with the contacts, Ed, I know there are different, I don't wear contacts, obviously, and I know there are different kinds of contacts, daily contacts, contacts that you can wear all night, all day, 24-hour contacts. Is one maybe better than another for playing sports, or it doesn't really matter?
It doesn't really matter. They kind of going to pick the lens, particularly for the kids, that's going to be more economical. So there'll be the ones that, instead of throwing them away daily, you wear them for 2 weeks and then throw them away. It's more economical for the parents, so we kind of steer them away from the daily lens.
Okay. Now, there are a percentage of kids, adults who play sports who wear these.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
I'm not going to get hurt wearing these.
No, you're not. And the lenses today are made out of a material called polycarbonate. It's literally bulletproof. I mean, not that you want to take a chance and try it yourself, but these are impact resistant. You'd be hard pressed to break them. And for kids under 19, there's no option. We don't give them an option about anything other than this polycarbonate lens, because they put themselves, playing sports and what have you, they put themselves in situations adults don't. So it's the safest option for them.
Okay, so goodness forbid you would have a tennis ball that you're misjudging hitting you.
Sure, that could be a problem. I mean, that could do some serious damage. Tennis is a sport that...
But this isn't going to shatter.
It won't. Even with a baseball, it won't shatter. In fact, if you were to take the lens out, put it on a table, and hit it dead on with a hammer, probably won't even break then.
Through the years, I mean, you've seen this whole thing develop then. It's been around for quite a while, or?
Yeah, it has. It's really didn't come into common use until about maybe 15 years ago. Back when it first came out, we needed special equipment to grind it. It was much softer material, so people hated it from the standpoint that it scratched it so easily. But that's not the case anymore.
Okay. Now, you had a big move recently.
I did.
Precision Vision.
I did.
You moved to a new location still in Acton.
Still in Acton, yeah. I moved from where we've been for the past 15 years down to the corner of 2A and 27 in that same plaza with CVS, yep. Acton Woods Plaza. It's something I wouldn't want to do again. This was not something I want to do on a daily basis. We moved 3,000 frames, about 25,000 pair of lenses.
Say those numbers again. I have to digest that.
3,000 frames we had to move. So we had to take them off their displays, wrap them up, box them, move them to the new location. The 25,000 pair of lenses.
25,000.
And the displays themselves were the more difficult. They're very heavy. It's not something I would want to tackle a project like this ever again. This was awful.
How long were you at the previous place?
15 years.
Okay.
And then I was 12 years prior to that across the street over where Medicheck used to be. So I've actually been in town for almost 28 years.
Now, Precision Vision also has an office in Townsend, I believe?
It does. That one's just been in the same spot for about 15 years up across from the high school in the Harbor Village Mall. And I don't work there that much. I kind of just sneak in there on occasion. I'm pretty much in the Acton store all the time.
Okay, and you have an optometrist, I believe, also
I do,
on site.
in both spots. We have optometrists that do eye exams in both spots.
Okay. Well, you're not going to have to. You're not going to have to move for another 16 years, and I don't think.
God,
it doesn't sound like you're ever going to move.
I couldn't do that again. If that store ever needs to move, that's something my kids are going to do. I'm out.
Okay. All right. Well, look, great having you with me.
It was
today.
great talking to you, Bob.
Yeah. So I'll catch one of your games.
I hope you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Coming up now, shortly rather, would be head coach Mike Lynn and a preview for this coming season.
Do you want to know what's going on in Littleton Community Television? Here's what LCTV used to look like. Now, we shoot in high definition. Wow, look at that color. Remember the days we used to use videotapes? Well, we're all digital now. Instead of doing this, you can do this. Our HD cameras are all robotic. Our editing suites have a 27-inch fully loaded iMac with the latest editing software, Final Cut Pro 10. The coolest features are new green screen set. You can go from the newsroom to the sports desk with virtual sets that you create. If you want to get involved with LCTV, call the station at 978-540-24TV. That's 978-540-2488. LCTV rules. Told you it was cool.
Massachusetts will have a new football playoff system this year, and wait till you hear about it. But first, what you and I really want to hear about is the 2013 Littleton Tigers, and for that, head coach Mike Lynn.
Hey Bob, how are you?
Thanks for being with me today. You've really only been going at this for less than a week and a half. Practice?
Correct.
How things going? How's the general health of the team?
Yeah, we're off to a great start. We've had the first week there. We had 7 practices, and we finished that week with a scrimmage on Saturday out in Quabbin, which went very well for us. We were back to work yesterday, and we'll be on the field today at 3.
What's the composition of the team? How many kids have gone out for it this year, and how many starters you have coming back?
We have 45 total players in grades 9 through 12. That's just under 25% of the male student body at Littleton High School, so we're pretty proud of the amount of players that are coming out. As far as returning starters, we have about 8 on offense and 8 on defense. We only had 5 seniors on the team last year, and of those 5, 3 of them were consistent starters throughout last season.
Okay, what do you see a big change from your offensive attack this year and your defensive defending this year from last year, based on the personnel that you have?
Yeah, we've been in a transition over the last several seasons as we saw our personnel change a little bit. We went from having, really being blessed with giant linemen for a number of years there and tons of backs, so we ran the ball, and that's what we did. And then about 3 years ago, we started progressing more towards a spread attack, a little bit more finesse. And last year, we were definitely more of that style. And this year, we've taken it even further. We plan to be no huddle for the most part, and moving very quickly on offense, getting a lot of plays off, keeping the defense on its heels, running option-based attack, where the quarterback has at least 1 read, if not 2 reads on every play, and passing the ball a good amount. Good balance between run and pass, option, draws and screens.
Is this going to be the first year that you are going to utilize not being in the huddle so much when you call plays? We've
been able to go no huddle for several years, but it's always been more of a change of pace for us. We've always been huddle, and then no huddle would be our change of pace. Now it's going to be the opposite. Our base system is no huddle, and we can huddle very easily. But no huddle, one of the greatest benefits is at practice. You don't waste that time when you get to your team phase of getting into huddle, getting back out to your positions, running the play, and coming back to huddle. When you're on there, during practice, we're probably getting in about 33% more reps during team phase.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just moving.
Of course, this whole thing is more of an evolving of the game. I don't know if it's a trend.
Yeah.
At least compared to where you started 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Give us a stark difference between when you started, how large the teams were back then, and the interest in town in high school football, and what you're looking at now.
Yeah. So first, football is definitely in the first part there. It definitely continues to evolve. I think it's evolving in a positive way. I think that the style of play we're doing now is more exciting for the players and the fans. It's wide open, you know, and it's definitely been a trickle-down effect from a little bit from the pros, but more so the college down to high school. Spread is very prevalent at the college level, and even our defense that we're running, a 3-5-3 defense, is definitely more of a college level, and it's trickling down to defense. I mean, trickling down to high school. So you've definitely seen that progression at the high school level to model what's happening at the higher levels. And you've also seen, 12 years ago, my first year, we had 31 kids total on the team, and about 12 of those kids were from Bromfield, because we were a co-op at that point. The last year that we had an active co-op agreement with Bromfield was 2007. 2008 was the first team that there was no co-op agreement. We were a standalone Littleton High School football team. We've been that way ever since 2008. And this year, we have since I've been the coach, we have the most Littleton kids playing football in a given year, with 45 kids solely from Littleton High School.
You have, as you said, you're running a lot more plays. So I imagine it makes it a lot more fun for practice for you, as well as your assistant coaches. They're more involved, I would think, now. Let's talk about the assistants.
Yeah, everybody with no huddle, when you get to that team phase, everybody's coaching on the fly, trying to talk to kids as they're heading back to their position, but want to keep it moving. But the assistant coaches, I've been very fortunate. I've been the head coach for 12 years. Tim Whitcomb has been with me for 11 of those 12 years. And Carlo Ferrante has been there for 8 of my 12 years. So the 3 of us have been together for the majority of the time I've been there. And Carlo heads up the defense for me. He calls defense on Friday night, and Tim Whitcomb handles special teams. I handle offense and the general running of the program. We also have some volunteer assistants. First one I'm going to mention is Sean Green. He's a former player for us, and he's really come into his own this year, and he's working with offensive and defensive line as a position coach. And then we have a couple more guys who pitch in that are former players of ours. Mike Gazzolino works with the line as well, and A.J. Rocker works with backs and defensive backs, and those guys are all volunteers, and they're former player alumni for us, and they come back and help us out. It's been great.
I met Carlo and Tim the first year I met you, 2005, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So you've got all these years under your belt together, and it must be a great situation to have all that familiarity amongst you.
It is. You know, we're definitely a group of guys that coach the team. The players have gotten to know all of us, and I think all of our personalities complement each other well. And Carlo brings a certain thing to the team, and Tim does, and as do I. So it's been good, and I hope those guys just keep going.
Okay, good. All right, now last year you were the league champions, undefeated in league play, made the playoffs for the 6th straight year.
Yep.
Now this year we have an entirely different playoff system that I'm still trying to digest. So could you try to explain that to us and folks watching?
Yep. The state of Massachusetts modeled this playoff system after what New Jersey's been doing for a number of years. There's only, to my knowledge, about 3 states that play on Thanksgiving. That'd be Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New Jersey. There's maybe a pocket in New Hampshire that does it, but so when you play on Thanksgiving, it's hard to have a playoff system because Thanksgiving is so late, and you get into the winter, and you get into winter sports season. So the playoffs, the majority of the playoffs will be played on the front end of Thanksgiving. We're going to play 7 games leading into whatever that 7th date is, the game versus Lunenburg at their place.
Yeah.
And then we start with the playoffs, and you start with district quarterfinal, district semifinal, district final. If you make it through those, the state semifinal will actually be on the Friday that is typically a bye week for teams before Thanksgiving. So you would play on that Friday when normally everyone is idle. And then if you make it through that round, you would then play on Thanksgiving, which is basically at that point an exhibition game for the team that is moving on, because it means nothing to the playoff system. And then the state final would still be that Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Okay, now I want to back up just for a question. Last year I believe you started 6-1. Does that sound?
Sounds about right, yeah.
I think it was 6-1.
I can't remember.
So with this year's new format, you're based on last year's numbers, you're 6-1 going into the playoffs. Does the thought of having to win in those first 7 games enter your mind at all?
Yeah, you definitely, those first 7 games are the only games that count for playoff qualification. Thanksgiving is on the back end of everything, and it's still for us going to count towards league standings. So our league championship in our league will not be settled until we play on Thanksgiving, and probably other teams that play other league opponents. In Central Mass, we're using a power rating system, so we can do that. Eastern Mass, if you'll maybe hear about this, neighboring towns, Acton, Boxborough, and Westford, they're going to play each other during the first 7 games, and they're going to play each other on Thanksgiving, because they're using a league championship scenario to get in over on Eastern Mass brackets.
Okay.
We're using a power rating system, so we don't have to do that. Every opponent is worth certain points, and that's a whole nother discussion. But so you definitely want to get off to a quick start in those first 7 games. You definitely want to obviously win as many as possible and qualify for the playoffs and qualify as the highest seed as you possibly can.
Now, once you hit the playoffs, Mike, are you going to be in a pool of like-kind-sized schools?
Yep. So we're Mid-Watch D, Mid-Midland Wachusett League, Division D for our league alignment. And for MIA tournament alignment, we are Central Mass Division 6. So Littleton High School is basically always hovering around 400 students, 200 boys. That places us across the state, the smallest bracket of football playing schools. So Division 6 is schools similar to our size.
Okay, so that stays the same. You're not going to be playing Acton Boxborough for a Super Bowl. You're going to stay in your own category.
We stay in our own category. There are tech schools in our bracket, but they use a multiplier, and when they use that multiplier, they actually wind up down there with Division 6 schools. But the things that were challenges of this is how does this work for teams that aren't in the playoffs anymore? So a team that was in the playoff pool that got knocked out will then fill up their schedule with a scheduling committee will fill up their schedule with other schools that were in the playoff pool that have now since been knocked out as well. If you never qualified for the playoffs, a similar process will occur where those schools will also be granted a 3-game schedule to get them to Thanksgiving upon not qualifying for the playoffs.
Okay.
So it's radical.
Well, it's radical, and I did read that the MIAA.
Yeah.
The vote was, what I read, was 161 for, 131 against. You have a 2-year trial period, too, I believe.
Correct.
So that sounds fair. Personally, that sounds fair to me. 1 year is not enough. 2-year trial?
Yeah, it narrowly passed. That was the second vote for this proposal. It was voted down 2 years ago, narrowly.
Okay.
And then this time it came up, it passed by, I think we'd just say 30-some-odd votes, right? It's 2-year trial period. What it is people want a playoff system, but people don't want to give up Thanksgiving. So it's hard to do both those things. Your traditional playoff system would be the regular season ends, and you're either turning in your equipment or you're heading into the playoffs.
Yeah.
But we have Thanksgiving on November 28th this year.
Yeah.
So, this is a model to try and maintain Thanksgiving and also have a playoff system.
Well, it's going to bring up a lot of interest. I mean, as a coach, you're looking at it differently than as a spectator.
Yeah.
I found the thought kind of exciting, but that's just me.
It's what we were doing wasn't great, wasn't perfect either. You would play on Thanksgiving, and if you made the playoffs, you'd be playing on Tuesday night, and then if you made it through that round, you'd then be playing on Saturday. You'd play three games in 10 days.
Within 10 days, yeah. That's nuts physically too.
No, it's too much. It's too much over the Thanksgiving Day holiday. We've been in that. We've been fortunate to be there for 6 years. So we'd play on Thanksgiving, and we're all back to work on Friday, Saturday, Sunday through Thanksgiving. I think that I'd like to see the kids and myself have a little bit of time with family if we're fortunate to still be playing beyond then. So that will occur. If you're playing beyond Thanksgiving, you don't have to be under such a hectic pace to get ready for a Tuesday night game. So that was the other argument, is that what we're doing isn't really educationally sound, to ask that of the kids and the coaches. So we'll try this and see how it goes. And the part of the excitement of this will be that when the playoffs do start, those first those first, I believe through the first 3 games, I'm not sure about the district final, but definitely those first 2, the quarters and the semis, they'll be played at the higher seeded site. And there'll be a revenue split kind of thing with the 2
Okay.
schools. That's a whole nother aspect to this. And I believe the district final might even be at the higher seeded. I'm pretty sure it's not going to go to neutrals until state semi and state final. All state final games will be played at Gillette Stadium, all 6 of them.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah, that'll be good. Because Central Mass was down playing at Area College when Eastern Mass was playing the Super Bowl
The
at
Super Bowl in
Gillette.
Gillette. Okay, we have a couple minutes left. Just tell us about your athletic department in general.
Yeah, so we're off to a great start with our fall sports. We're going to be around 200, just around 200 student athletes through our fall sports, which is about half of our school. So we're excited to see between 45 to 50% of our boys and girls playing a fall sport. In the fall, we offer, for boys, we offer football, soccer, golf, and cross country. For girls, we offer soccer, field hockey, cheerleading, and cross country. And those rosters are quite full right now, across boys and girls sports. Overall, throughout the year, we offer 21 sports at Littleton High School. We have several other co-op sports that we offer through other schools in the area. We have girls ice hockey in the winter through Westford Academy. We've had swimming, which we hope will continue with Brownfield for boys and girls. We're adding gymnastics team this winter. And we also have crew for boys and girls in the fall and spring with Westford. So with those offerings, we get up to 27 different offerings that a student at Littleton High School can participate in on top of the 21 that we have under our roof.
And of course, with Title IX, it's you have an equal mixture for men and for women.
Yeah,
So
we've got a good balance.
okay, thank you so much.
All right, Bob.
And good luck this year, man.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, Littleton Tiger home games will be broadcast on LCTV, weather permitting, on a delayed basis. And to bring us up to speed on that, Mark Crory will be with me right after this brief timeout.
Do you want to know what's going on in Littleton Community Television? Here's what LCTV used to look like. Now, we shoot in high definition. Wow, look at that color. Remember the days we used to use videotapes? Well, we're all digital now. Instead of doing this, you can do this. Our HD cameras are all robotic. Our editing suites have a 27-inch fully loaded iMac with the latest editing software, Final Cut Pro 10. The coolest features are new green screen set. You can go from the newsroom to the sports desk with virtual sets that you create. If you want to get involved with LCTV, call the station at 978-540-24TV. That's 978-540-2488. LCTV rules. Told you it was cool.
Okay, we're back. And I have a contract renewal coming up, so I thought I'd have my boss, Mark Crory, on today. So actually, no, he's not my boss. I'm a volunteer. He's just a good friend. How's it going, bud?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Pound it.
And you're also an ex-Littleton Tiger back in the 1980s.
Yes, class of 1983.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, I did play 3 sports, basketball, baseball, football, and of course every football season I get nostalgic. When, you know, they get that crispness in the air, the certain smell that brings me right back to those days. They were good times.
Kind of what I was describing in my intro, autumn. Yeah, this is autumn. Autumn and football, they go together.
Absolutely. I'm a little jealous, though, because the teams these days, 6 years in a row they've made the playoffs, and we never made a playoff once. But it was a little different back then. You had to kind of win the division I think they have a lot more teams that make it now. You can make the playoffs actually with a losing record. But back then, you pretty much had to be 9-1 or undefeated to get in the playoffs.
So now you can make the playoffs vicariously through the players here in town.
Right.
You've been televising the football games for how many years now?
Since well, I think all the years I've been here, 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah, but we know we've done them single camera before with just one announcer, and then we moved to maybe 2 cameras with 2 announcers, and this year we've got some new equipment that we're going to try out. It's kind of like a studio in a box.
I'm supposed to ask the question.
Oh yeah, okay.
Let's start over again here.
Okay.
So Mark, tell us about the new equipment we have this year.
Oh, thank you for asking that question. That's very astute of you. It's a studio in a box. It's called Sony Anycast, and basically it allows you to hook up multiple cameras and switch live and add graphics and everything live on the spot.
Okay.
So post-production we won't need to do. I used to have to shoot in separate cameras, bring it back here, edit it, and it would take, it's very time consuming. But now everything is going to be kind of live to tape, even though we don't use tape, but
Yep.
that's the expression. And when we're done with the game, we should have a show that's ready to go on the air.
I've heard some rumblings about the possibility of instant replay, or is that just a rumor? Or?
No, there is a possibility. I'm not sure if we're going to institute that this year, but we'll see how the coverage goes with the new equipment and all. But certainly, I think people are so used to instant replay these days that they almost expect it, and we want to ramp up our coverage of sports too. So it'll be something that we add, if not this year, then definitely next year.
Now, what exactly are you going to be doing? What's your involvement this year?
I'm going to be in the truck.
Yeah.
The truck, it could be a van,
Yeah,
it could
yeah.
be whatever we can house this equipment. We don't have a truck or a van. But, so we're going to pull up behind the bleachers, and I'll be in the back of a
Yeah.
vehicle somehow.
Yeah.
And then we run the cameras out to that. We're building some platforms in the bleachers that the cameras will set on so that we, before we'd either be on top of the press box, which is very crowded and maybe unsafe, and or we would be in the bleachers, and when people walk or get excited, starts to jump, then it shakes the camera. So with the platforms, we hope that will, alleviate people walking in front of the shots or the bumpiness of the cameras.
Okay, and I understand you have a new color announcer this year, an intern. Do you want to talk about the announcer and the play-by-play?
Right, yeah. Well, the play-by-play will be Mike Fontanella again. He's going to be back, and Mike used to broadcast games in college and things, so he's very knowledgeable about the sports. Plus, he has kids who are in the school system. He knows all the kids. He knows so much about the program. And then our color analyst is one of our high school video club members, Ryan Vallon. And this is Ryan's lifelong ambition is to go into broadcasting and things. So it's great to be able to give him an opportunity, and we're looking forward to, again, he's right in the school, so talk about knowing the kids and the players and, well, this is what I heard today in study hall,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So he should be able to provide us with a lot of insight that our viewers have never had before.
Okay. Now, I believe the first game is September 13.
That's
Is that
right.
an open? Is that at home or?
It's home. It's Friday the 13th. It's against West Boylston.
Games start at?
They start at 7 o'clock. Yeah. And even though we're going to be taping them, they're not live. And so they still encourage people to go down because, you pay admission to get into the games, and those funds help to, support the program. So we don't want to take away from the gate by people saying, oh, I'm not going to go, I'm just going to watch it on TV.
Okay. Now, I don't want to put you on the hot seat, but typically, what's the delay time?
Well, it used to be we would air them on Tuesdays. And the reason, which meant Monday was a frantic edit day, And we did that because we didn't want to compete with Monday Night Football. Most people like to tune in to watch that. And we wanted Tuesday Night Football,
Okay.
So we'll probably still keep that, schedule. We may even pop it on over the weekend, too, so that if we play on a Friday night, look for it Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, because of our new schedule, we've been able to expand our hours, and so it could I haven't really decided when it's going to air yet, but the turnaround will be a lot faster.
Okay.
And then, if you missed it because what we did last year, you would run a game for a few airings during the week, and then that would be it. Usually you do a new game, and the old one's, gone. And but now with the on-demand feature, we'll upload the games to on-demand, and if you missed that week's game, you can, or any game, you can catch up online and watch the games at your convenience.
Okay. And I do want to point out that Mark doesn't live in Littleton. He's dedicated. He's coming down from for a distance to stay here for a Friday night to tape these games, and I think that's just fantastic.
Well, it's the fun thing about the job is that there's always something different, whether it's covering a sporting event or a meeting or a high school play, graduations. You really get involved with the community, and of course I love Littleton, having grown up here, and it's just so nice to be out and about and see people that I recognize and know, and also just to feel like we give back a little bit. It's a place where people can go and tune in to see their local stuff that they wouldn't get anywhere else.
Okay. All right, well, thank you so much, Mark.
You're welcome.
Yep, and don't laugh at me when I start reading my ending here, because it's a little bit hokey in the beginning, so let me give it a shot.
All right.
But anyway, no, that is about it from here. I think we marched right down the field tonight with Mike Lynn and Mark Crory connecting for a touchdown pass with our Littleton Tigers preview. But seriously, I also want to give a special game ball to Ed McCarthy for the enormous contribution of volunteer coaching that he's done for Park and Rec. And Tiger players, when you strap them up game time, remember, the town's 100% behind you. You have a great year.